So what I was saying before my camera cut off inside is I already kind of cleaned his microwaved plate that had been dirty for days in the guest house down there called Harmony Guest House, and I also cleaned things in the kitchen that weren't cleaned properly by other guests. And so, you know, in these Asian cultures I've been, they're really quick at reaching out when I want to offer them stuff, you know, like I offered his parents here some cookies, and I offered him some leftover paper I've been carrying in my suitcase that is the sizes for Korean paper for printers that I had in my suitcase the whole time, and not really thank yous or any offers of anything that would be easy for them to give in exchange, you know. So it's discouraging, the monetary paradigm, and it's not just with foreigners, it's among themselves, you know. It's a sickness. Monetary paradigm is a great way to devolve your culture, and this is what's being taught to the kids too. And I see businesses around here that are just trying to sell their things like their chicken, and while their kids are kind of raising themselves, you know, at a really young age, you know, and not always in safe ways, because, you know, we got to run the business, comes first. And common in all the Asian countries I've been in so far. So it's quite sad. And I just put a blog just to vent a little bit, because I don't have a counselor to hear and understand this stuff and relate to it. And I just said that I know a lot about Japanese and Korean culture now, and that if anybody should give them an apology, it's themselves, you know. They've been harming themselves so much with their poor choices and how it's having a negative impact on their own kids, and the harder challenges that they'll have to face now, having the wrong or the missing thinking tools to deal with the generation they'll be growing up in. I'm walking looking for a place to play badminton outside, and I kind of didn't memorize the map, but I don't mind just going for a walk. And I kind of have an idea where it is, but I just need to get out of the room, you know. But I kind of want to not interact with Korean people, because I've done it so many times, and it's very depressing and infuriating. The lack of effort that they do to communicate, and how they'll ignore you a lot of the time as a way to not put any mental effort, and yet still expect full payment for things, you know. Like here at the guest house, I told him in an email, don't use the word continental breakfast, here's the definitions. Because he only has white bread with one kind of jam, strawberry, often really low on the jam, and coffee for the hot water. And coffee, I've seen it not being there a few times because he keeps it in his room. So now with the hot water, no choice of teas or even a sweetener other than a plain old little bit of white sugar left, no honey or creams and hot chocolate or things like that. And there's a cereal, the cheapest one, sugar cereal, cheapest one you can get, and it's the cheapest coffee you can get too, if he doesn't find one left in a room that he can switch it to from a guest that left it there. And so it's pretty sad. I mean, it's pretty sad that he's saving money in this way, and that I have to knock on the door to get a little pack of coffee. But he shows people where things are, like toilet paper, save himself work. And I've already done cleaning, like I've cleaned the microwave dish when it was really dirty, and I've also cleaned messes that people leave without cleaning them properly. And so I think he didn't want me to clean the shower, because for him maybe it was too humiliating, but he didn't do a good job when he did it again. And but he would have let me vacuum, and he was going to let me clean the TV that's really dirty, and the mirror that's really dirty in the room. And but then you know, the Windex disappeared before they answered my question of what I should use with the Windex. And So what I was saying about the things that aren't locked, like big bottles of shampoo and conditioner, and I know that some girls that are staying here a short time, they're putting some in their suitcases before they go. You know, it's kind of weird what he's losing money on and what he could be earning money on, and what he's cheap about saving money on. It doesn't make sense, you know. It's based on some OCD, you know, and this culture is really big on paranoia and anxieties, so related to that. So of course there's a lot of micromanaging, you know, like controlling things that don't scientifically make sense or mathematically make sense. So I talked to his sister that speaks good English, and yeah, she was getting argumentative, and she said, I said, do you have any more questions? I said, do you have anything else you want to say? I said, no. Do you have anything else? I said, no, I'm already convinced that you're not interested in creating a win-win scenario for your brother that would be good for his business in the long term, because they only think short term. They're surviving day to day with their businesses in places like this, and they think they're getting robbed by foreigners sometimes, when it's actually their friends robbing them that hang out with them in the stores, you know. So anyways, looking forward to leave what, as a social scientist, I've long ago had enough data to know is a underdeveloped country. You know, I'm not evaluating them as an engineer, and even if I was, I'd have to evaluate them as a culture. And it's not all of them that know how to build a train track, or how a locomotive works, or, you know, what keeps the bridge solid in an earthquake. You know, these are minorities. So the majority, you know, like in my own country, has training to flip burgers and lower their attention spans with their phones, that they barely know how to use 2% of what it could actually be doing. So it's pretty sad. So Canada, of course, is an underdeveloped country if it's evaluated, you know, through the social sciences. And because we're born as social creatures, and we have to evaluate a species as a collective, then of course I don't think I've ever seen a developed country that even approaches a stable proto-civilization, so much less a civilization. And a civilization is grounded in accountability, and of course this is so far from reality in Asian countries. And also because a long time ago, with boats and planes and internet, as we've become a global society, is you have to evaluate for a proto-civilization at a global scale. And at a global scale, with capitalism and competition and paranoias and military deterrence and all that nonsense, well, yeah, there's no developed countries, and there's no way that the Homo communia are the smartest species on this planet. So I don't even think that they make the first 10 list of the first 10 smartest species. And again, we could just, for example, compare them with other social creatures, not just primates, but dolphins, and see how they rate. And if we're objective, you know, we get rid of our human chauvinism, we actually use real science, and we get the science to be done by the scientists who have done their own personal development work, their own personal psychohistory, meaning that they're capable of objectivity. You know, they're not trying to fit things into their own worldviews, or that are either religious or not, but that are still based on meeting their insecurities and their own self-image. Then we will see that so many other social species are much smarter than the Homo communia, which is the human that is, you know, the primate dressed in clothes, the people primates that we have today. So this building is not what makes a species intelligent, because the species is the collective, the majority. So when minorities can, you know, start a fire with just a couple of pieces of wood, or can explain the workings of internal combustion engines, and don't want to dirty my mountain shoes here. So there's a lot of hazards in this country, and I've never seen a country that is so bad at having people walk behind cars that are backing up or things like that. And people don't turn around anymore, and often it's because there are disabilities. The stress In cultures like this in Japan, I've noticed that when mental illness is a stigma, and there's really no good resources to deal with it anyways, might as well stay a stigma, is that their internal processes turn the mental illness into a physical illness. And it's often been skin conditions that I see. And like I've been in Japan, like in a store that sells cosmetics, and the young sales lady makes very little effort to communicate, even using our common language, which is in our brain, but I guess most people don't have access to it anymore, the nonverbal communication, is you could see the skin condition she has. And then she goes and gets a superior, which is, I don't think the manager. Oh my God, his skin condition was bad too. I don't know how they're supposed to sell products in that store when everybody looks like they're using the products and getting rashes. But a part of it is the stress, right? For example, if a woman says, well, I don't smoke in Asia, and then she walks with shoes that her beautiful figure will be destroyed at 22 years old, and she'll have, back and spinal kind of injuries from these types of choices for like shoe wear, even before she's 30. Well, I don't smoke, I eat well. Yeah, but you do other things that is unhealthy to deal with your stress. And so you actually are hurting yourself more than if you smoke sometimes. Because skin's a pretty important organ too, and the digestive tract, where there's a lot of the stress and anxieties being experienced, is like a secondary brain. You're hurting your whole nervous system there. If you would be hurting only your lungs or other things that the poisons from the cigarettes would attack, you might actually be doing yourself a favor in a society that does not treat. And of course, as we are social creatures, this is another example that these Asian countries I've been in are underdeveloped countries because they do not have social services that are anywhere near where they should be to meet the lifestyles that are unhealthy, that they've allowed out of control unconsciously without management skills or even knowledge to manage their own evolutionary cultural changes. That it's definitely not a developed country, and it's sad because the answers are there. It's same thing with the Facebook groups that I've been on, the ecology of systems thinking and the global collaboration challenge, is as much as I'll reflect with a mirror their own behaviors and choices to prove they're acting opposite of the name of their Facebook group, is they will just vilify me and block me out, but only like minimally. And that's hypocrisy, right? They don't say like, we are going to burn you at the stake like they did with the witches with different ideas a long time ago. They just do it in a kind way to your face, but in the background, a lot of negative bullying is happening. But anyways, I've created a few socio-cybernetic opportunities for them to notice this, and they don't want to go there in their thinking. They don't want to become aware of it. They don't want to have that meta-psychology, and the reason is, again, intellectual laziness. I'm just going to see if my camera's still recording. Wow. And the reason there's intellectual laziness is problems have gotten so far now, and this is a positive socio-cybernetic feedback loop that proves that we've already passed the psychological tipping scale to fix things as a potential proto-civilization, is that they would prefer to just push people away, even if gently, because maybe they do respect part of my intelligence, is because they know that they'll have to do the work themselves. Because it's not inventing a straw that can purify water that's going to change things. It's up here. And it has to be done by everybody because it's a species, it's a society, it's a collective global social structure made up of individuals. So it has to be the majority of the individuals do the... and of course people unconsciously know this, right? You can't just have one leader and accept to be a sheep to this leader that somehow creates this utopia. It's everybody, because a culture is created by the majority. So everybody must do the work to fix things, which means making hard choices for their lives. And like I wrote in my time capsule contribution, it must be that every country goes bankrupt and everybody is ready to go through some very, very hard times for at least 2 generations right now. Now, it's not going to happen right now, so it's going to be a lot more than 2 generations before anything that provides a sense of security to, let's say, newly born children in the future is possible to exist. It's going to take many, many generations for collectively, let's take an average of new children around the world feeling a sense of security when they're young in the environments they'll be in. It'll be many generations, and it won't even be by choice. It'll just be socio-cybernetics that will find a temporary equilibrium after much hardship. So anyways, thanks for listening. I'm going to focus on finding this badminton player.